Hey guys, MoJK here. Just wanted to talk about the two big upcoming units. I know this is a little bit late, and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to make a poll video tomorrow, to be honest, because work has just been really crazy. And I'm actually going to Puerto Rico on Friday with a family for my vacation, and I won't be back until next like Thursday or so. So this might be it, but I'm not sure. So anyway, as everybody knows by now, the Final Fantasy X banner is about to hit us, and I just wanted to go over the two most important units because I don't really have time to cover everything else. So, also Warrior of Light is coming, finally, yay! So that's also another awesome development. So let's talk about Riku first. So she's considered a support, but she also has like a lot of different options on how to use her. So don't think of her as just a support. Her stats are pretty good overall. People aren't generally interested in stats that much, but overall it's pretty respectable. Attack is 142, which is probably a little bit above average, I would say. Her weapon selection is a little bit poor. There's a dagger here. Trying to think what dagger would probably work best on her. If you're using her mainly in a support role, I mean, you could use something like a survival knife to bump up her HP. I'm sure some people will use Bowie knife or a second knife or whatever to dual wield, but yeah, other than wind maybe, there's not a ton of elemental options that you got here. Same with throwing weapons, there's not a lot of elemental options here either. Probably going to be stuck with Rising Sun or whatever, but it's a pretty good raw damage if you need that. Claws are fist weapons. There's obviously Kaiser Knuckles, which is also wind, and maybe a couple of others, but TM wise it's pretty much Kaiser Knuckles, and maybe something might be slipping my mind, but that's about it. Some people, I mean, if you are using her as a support, don't necessarily need damage or whatever, like elemental chaining, then you can just put a survival knife for HP and then a shield to give her kind of like maximum defense and survivability, because you will want her to survive. Okay, so what's with those black boxes? Oh, by the way, the music is from FFBE. I don't know if you recognize it. I was kind of struck by it, so I decided to make a video with this depressing music because I just haven't really heard it that much before. I'm running through the story right now with my Setzers, so it's like right after you beat one of the Veritasuses. Anyway, so she's able to steal, escape, burning soul. I mean, escape is sometimes useful if you want to avoid using MP during like exploration maps and things like that. Steal is like whatever. I think they thought steal was going to be a bigger deal when they first made the game, but it's not really that big of a deal, generally speaking, unless there's those rare events where we had like Zon and stealing the currency helped. So let me talk about Burning Soul, Winter Storm, Lightning Rod all together here. Oh, and Tidal Wave. So these are all different elemental options, and what's great about these is while she's probably not going to be like a mega damage dealer, these are, I mean, the multiplier is okay, but she's still not going to be able to dish out that much damage. But what's great about these is that they're 9 hits, and I don't know the timing of it, but theoretically with 9 hits she will be able to elemental chain with somebody. So I'm eager to try her out with my Folan, because as I mentioned with the weapons, she has some wind options like Kaiser Knuckles. So if she is able to wind chain with my Folan, that would be amazing, because I've always not always, but I've wanted somebody that can chain with him, because that's kind of like one of his biggest drawbacks so far. I love him as a character so far, but just finding a chaining partner has been a little bit rough. So I'm hoping that there's a little bit of chaining going on there, even if it's not perfect. And then of course, the other elements can give you other wider options. So that's enough about that. All Bed Potion is pretty cool because it can get rid of some status ailments and just provide supplemental healing. If you aren't using Tillith, Riku is actually a godsend, because maybe Kiraja or even dual cast Kiraja sometimes isn't quite enough. This can be like a little bit like a top off, which is really cool. She can supplement your healer that way. I'll get to Synthesis in just a little bit. Okay, Mug is obviously the better version of Steel. Mega Phoenix. So again, for people who don't have Tillith, this is going to be an awesome option for you. This is essentially what Tilith is able to do, which is full life everybody all at once. So obviously you do want Riku to be pretty sturdy and survivable. So again, something that you can supplement with, supplement your party with. If you don't have Tilith, or you don't even have a dual cast Refia with like 2 full lives or whatever, this is a great addition to your party on its own. Passive wise, it's not too remarkable. She has some evasion, and decreased chance of being targeted is good because it just increases her survivability even more. If somebody else is getting targeted, that's probably better because you want Riku to stay alive for a number of reasons. And then also she increases her limit burst gauge fill rate by 100%, which is actually very important because her limit burst is like a big part of why she's so awesome. So let's go to synthesis here. You do have to waste a turn for this, but what it does is it enables 3 excellent abilities. And what those are is you can either do fixed damage to all enemies, 19,999, which is kind of like a middle of the range, slightly weak double dice roll. But this, of course, can be handy because some enemies have super high defense, and maybe fixed damage is the best option for that. But not the best ability out of the 3. The other one is basically a really nice like Blizzard Flask type of ability. AoE. This is going to be good for Arena, assuming you can't do 1-turn kills, because you wouldn't need to do this on the 2nd turn after activating synthesis. But it's basically a Blizzard Flask, so it's pretty nice. If they're not Petrify immune, then they're going to be definitely petrified here. So yeah, other than the 1-turn setup, it is actually a better version because it has this 100% here. And then finally, what I think is really cool is Hyper Null. Increases all elemental resistances by 40%, which is pretty respectable for something that's so comprehensive. And it does damage reduction 30% on top of that, which is just an amazing mitigation tool here. So this is one of her better abilities. And then of course her limit burst, her legendary limit burst, probably the best limit burst in the entire game, is that it increases your defense and spirit by a lot. It can go up to 74%, but it also auto revives 80% for 3 turns to all allies. So basically, in the words of some people, if you're able to get the limit burst up every couple turns, which is actually pretty doable considering the chaining that's going on these days, and also with the limit burst gauge fill rate increase, basically if you're activating this, your party becomes in a way immortal because they will always auto revive with 80% HP, which kind of gets you back on your feet, gives you a chance to like regroup. So this is an amazing limit burst. One of the biggest reasons why she's awesome. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Riku, but she is meta defining. I mean, you definitely want her. She's going to be like making all the tough fights like a lot more stable because people will just be reviving all over the place, and you won't be like catching up all the time trying to get back on your feet. So she's an awesome character. I'm definitely pulling hard for her. All my tickets and a couple of 11 pulls at least. And then we have Tidus, who obviously is like one of the main protagonists of Final Fantasy X, an awesome physical damage dealer. Some people would call him part of the Trinity, Eileen, Tidus, and Orlando, because they all have their elemental chaining going on. I believe his chaining is a little bit harder to find like a partner with. It's a little bit harder to time right, but yeah, he's still good. So, oh, and I forgot to mention Trustmaster rewards. His Brotherhood is his best sword, Water Elemental, and 135, so obviously the best option for him. But his stats are really good. 154 attack is very, very high. I think 155 is on somebody, might be better, but yeah, very, very good stuff. 100% water resistance, that could definitely be handy in some fights. His weapon selection is actually good enough. I mean, he has a sword. Dagger is like whatever. He can maybe equip Camille's TM if, that's all you got. It's a nice dual wield option there. I'm sorry, Camille's TM is a sword, not a dagger. I was thinking Bowie knife for some reason. But he has his own TM. He has Camille's TM, Enhancer for, people who are just starting out. Great sword for great sword mastery, and all these other great, awesome swords like Excalibur. You know the deal. Katana, which enables the use of Blade Mastery for that extra 50% attack. Definitely very important. And then you could use like Rising Sun or whatever if you, which has good raw attack again, but doesn't really have good passives or elemental to go with it. And good armor selection. He can wear heavy armor, so he can actually use heavy armor and a sword and make use of Dark Knight's Soul, or I always get it mixed up with Transterra's or Dark Fina's thing, but basically the one that gives you 50% when you equip heavy armor and a sword. It was Leon's TM. So Innate Ability Spiral Cut is like whatever. You'll only use this if you're like low on MP and you're desperate or something. Energy Rain, pretty typical AoE. Entrust, nice little option if you need to give somebody else your Trustmaster, not your Trustmaster, your Limit Burst. For instance, Riku, if you need it. Get Pumped. This is the interesting support / attack ability. So 1.4 to 1 enemy is obviously really weak, but you know, if you need to have a full, you know, set of buffs, or you know, what is this, like a support ability, I guess, you know, this is always a nice option to have, because sometimes your healer or whatever might be tied up doing other things, more urgent things, like Tillith might be busy reviving everybody or full healing everybody, so she won't be able to put up a buff or something like that. It's always nice to have another character that can do that. And if it's a damage dealer, that's pretty good, because you know, damage is very important obviously, but it's not always the most urgent thing. Blitzmania is a nice little refresh, but it's also an awesome water resistance buff. So this is pretty crazy if we come up against water bosses, which we will. Great ability here, and it has refresh on top of that, so it's like a nice little bonus. Now, this was a little interesting to me because Jet Shot and Quick Hit actually have the same effective multipliers. It's just a situational kind of thing. So Jet Shot is adds water physical damage with a defense ignore of 50%. So this effectively is a 4x, just like Quick Hit is 4x. But this also adds water elemental to your physical attacks for 5 turns. This is not necessary if you have, like, let's say Brotherhood or some Camille's TMR or some other water weapon. But what is also good about this, other than the water elemental built into it, is the fact that it's a one hit, so this can be used effectively as a finisher. Whereas Quick Hit is obviously a chaining move at 12 hits. So actually, just judging by the hit count, you can see why it would be hard for him to chain with other people, because you have, you know, other people with like 7 hits, 5 hits, or whatever, but 12 hits is going to be really fast, probably. It is called Quick Hit, and it's going to be hard to chain probably with anybody other than Tidus. So we'll have to see about that. Maybe Setzer, I don't know. But it is a good multiplier. It's already, like, you know, the same multiplier as one of these abilities. What's different, of course, is that neither of these has a water element resistance down, which is actually built into his limit burst. So his limit burst is actually going to be very important to use. So even at base, it's pretty good. I mean, 75% for 5 turns is a good debuff. So this limit burst is actually going to be very important to level up, I would say, and to use. And you can get it all the way up to 100%, which is a really good debuff. So potentially, if you have this debuff on the boss, and you're using either Jack Shot or Quick Hit, probably Quick Hit with Brotherhood on, his damage potential is higher at this point than Orlandu and Eileen, I would argue, but it does require a little bit of dependence on the limit burst here. So passive-wise, he has a nice 30% evasion, which is really good. That's pretty high for a physical damage dealer. And this is also very important. Limit burst gauge fill rate is 200% up, which is important, obviously, because we need that debuff. But it also gives him this nice innate resistance to these status ailments. This 200%, you know, if you don't need all that limit burst, this is also going to play into him entrusting others like Riku, so also a good support kind of thing. Suncrest, this is interesting. It's only 20%, but it also gives you some killer abilities, passives, so beasts, birds, and demons. So 30% attack here. 50% combined is actually a little bit lower than some of the elite damage dealers, but that's kind of made up for with this and with the stronger debuff of the limit burst. And then he has good HP. So all in all, obviously a very elite unit. His skill set's actually very good, better than some of the other elite damage dealers. My only concern about him is that chaining might be tricky without another Tidus in your friends list or something, or in your own inventory if you're lucky enough. But that's pretty much his only drawback. I would love to get him, but obviously first and foremost, I'm going for Riku because she's actually probably doable or obtainable. And if I get Tidus, I'm gonna jump out of my chair. But that's pretty much my review. Hoping I can make a pull video tomorrow, but I'm not sure if I will. So this, I wanted to make this today while I could. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry for not being comprehensive about everything. I'm just trying to get it done, and we'll see what happens. But if I don't get to see you guys, I'll be back after Puerto Rico, and yeah, happy hunting. Good luck.